What you are not being told by the media anywhere is that the death toll likely would not have been as high if it wasn't for DEI. This Texas tragedy is just the latest example. This is DEI working to undermine meritocratic institutions, and more people likely died than otherwise would have because of DEI.
And so now some mother and father and sister and brother and aunt and uncle has to lay their loved one to rest just because of race and ethnicity, because we want to play the DEI game. Welcome to the John Amanchukwu Show. Do me a big favor, my friends, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And never forget that there is no rhythm like the algorithm. Now, in this episode, we want to talk more about what's happening in Texas with this flood. And, you know, there's been a report that over 160 plus lives have been lost, and we're praying for every soul and every family that has been impacted by this tragedy. But we want to get down to the bottom of this situation and find out what could have been done in a different way to make sure that we could remedy this problem. And it might save lives in other states as well. But the first thing that we have to address with this problem is this: that a person should never be hired, get this, solely because they are a certain pigmentation, ethnicity, or skin tone. What am I saying? You should not hire a person just because they are black, or just because they are white, or just because they are Indian, or Hispanic, or Asian, or Native American, Pacific Islander, or other. These are not criteria points that we should use with selecting the best candidate. It should never happen. When that happens, it's racism. It's racism if it's done for someone that's white, and it's racism when it's done for someone that's black. Now, we just can't look the other way when it happens when it's for someone that's black and say, oh yeah, well, we're reaping our benefits in this country. Black people have gone through so much in America. We deserve to be selected and picked because of what the white man did. No, if we are doing that today, my friends, that is racism. And so when it comes to this whole storm and what went wrong and what could have been done differently, we have to acknowledge that some people are putting diversity over duty. And guess what? When that happens, lives are lost. So there are some allegations that are rolling out right now that I want to get into. And that's the fact that DEI contributed to the death toll in Texas. The high number of flood deaths is partially blamed on diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring policies. The tragedy is framed not as random incompetence, but as a result of prioritizing identity over merit. Take a look at this video right here of Charlie Kirk, and you'll see what's going on.
We are in a state of national mourning, as we should be. And the Democrats, they're so despicable. The Democrats are not lifting a finger to remember the well over 100 people that have died in Texas Hill Country. What you are not being told by the media anywhere is that the death toll likely would not have been as high if it wasn't for DEI. This Texas tragedy is just the latest example. It's not just incompetence. This is DEI working to undermine meritocratic institutions, and more people likely died than otherwise would have because of DEI. Let me prove it to you. In 2014, the Obama administration sued the Austin Fire Department about 11 years ago, fire union, for supposed racial discrimination, resulting in a settlement. So the Obama administration was so worried that the fire department in Austin, Texas was racist because, you know, when you're putting out fires, you got to make sure that you have a diverse fighting force. All jokes aside, well, the pressure was on the city to prove its diversity credentials. So a few years later, they picked Joel Baker as their first black fire chief. He announced right away that promoting diversity is one of his top priorities. They brought him in from Atlanta, and his priority was not putting out fires or being prepared for floods. No, his priority was to make sure that the fire department was blacker. Play cut 347.
This two-time fire chief wants to make a difference in the growing city of Austin and tells us he wants to start by bringing in more diversity.
It's important that the Austin Fire Department, as much as we can, reflect the community which we serve.
But when you hire people based on race, you're not hiring based on skill. So right now, Baker is facing a vote of no confidence by his union for, this is the key, for denying the pre-deployment of resources to Kerrville, Texas. Now, Kerrville is in Texas Hill Country, which is west of Austin. Austin has a monster fire department, and so his union, they wanted to pre-deploy resources to Kerrville, Texas. But Baker apparently didn't act because of budgetary concerns. Well, the only problem, the Austin Fire Department is fully reimbursed by the state of Texas for such deployments. They tried explaining this to him, but he didn't quite comprehend the idea of reimbursement. I don't think he knew the word reimbursement. They sat down, they said, sir, this will be reimbursed. And according to reports he didn't understand it. The head of the Austin Fire Union, this is not me making up, said, quote, I explained the reimbursement process to Chief Baker last week, and he failed to understand this very simple concept.
All right, hold it right there.
You have to also wonder,
So reimbursement. Okay, I just flew to Arizona to speak at a school board meeting in Tempe. I hope I said that the right way. Tempe. If you're from that area, don't feel bad. Tempe, something like that, right? Neither, either. However, when I got to the hotel, I had to pay for the room myself. Now, normally, the company that I'm supporting and working with, they cover these things in advance. But this time they didn't. So what I told the lady at the front desk is, hey, man, no issue, no problem. I had been up since 4 o'clock in the morning. I had no time to sit there and debate over this bill. You know, the bill, I had no time to do that. I have the funds myself to pay for it if I just have to. But since it's being done in conjunction with another organization, I can be reimbursed. What does that mean? I have to front the payment myself. And then when I get back to North Carolina, I will submit an expense report. And when I do so, the company will then reimburse me for the hotel. That's reimbursement. I mean, it's simple. It's easy. It's clear. Watch.
There's another piece of tape here that we're going to play of the Democrats also saying that Camp Mystic was too white. Literally, they said, oh, Camp Mystic was too light. Other Democrat influencers are laughing and making light and fun of this online, saying, well, all those Christian girls praying to Jesus, Jesus didn't save them. This is the state of the wretched
evil
status of the modern Democrat Party. But the Austin Fire Association has said that the fire chief Baker denied pre-deployment 2 days before floods began. So they knew this flood was coming 2 days before. Kerrville is not a major city. It's growing, but it's not a major city. And this is not random people accusing this DEI fire chief. Could we put a picture of him up on screen? This DEI fire chief, that guy right there, he runs one of the biggest fire departments in Texas and one of the biggest in the country. His own firefighters are accusing him of not understanding a very basic concept called reimbursement. His own fire union is accusing him of this. Let's trace this back. This all started with the Obama administration. Obama sued the Austin Fire Department saying, you guys are too white. We're still facing the consequences of his disastrous DEI push. And we here on the Charlie Kirk Show are one of the few programs that are actually covering this. And let me say this as clearly as possible. the death toll reaches at least 119 in the Texas floods, with 173 missing. This will be one of the deadliest flooding incidents, catastrophes in the modern era. How many people unnecessarily died because of DEI? Well, you can rest easy because they say diversity is our strength. And now those little girls are dead. Those families are without their daughters. But hey, you have a black fire chief in Austin. You should be happy about that.
See, that's the part, man.
Joining me.
We can't just put our focus on whether or not a person is black, white, Asian, Hispanic. Oh, yeah, we want to prioritize hiring as many black fire chiefs as possible. That's the same thing that the LA mayor did, Karen Bass. When we saw what happened in LA with the LA fires, and they disregarded President Trump when he told them that, hey, man, you all need to sweep the floor of the forest because, you know, the debris that will fall from the tree, from the trees, they were highly flammable because they were dried out from the sun. But no, they didn't want to do that because they want to protect the natural habitat of a forest. So therefore, the fire came and they disregarded President Trump. And Karen Bass is all about being woke and being the first black this and hiring all of these LGBTQ people, that they put the emphasis and the focus in the wrong place, so that when calamity came, when the heat came, so many people had to lose their homes solely because of poor leadership and poor planning. See, DEI hiring practices can have real life deadly consequences. The core argument is this: is that when institutions prioritize diversity quotas over merit-based hiring, especially in life or death fields like firefighting or emergency management, the consequences are not theoretical. They are fatal. They are fatal. In the Texas Hill Country floods, the tragedy that we're witnessing, just get this: over 100 people have died. And we're seeing reports that it's, 160 plus or whatever. It's across the board right now, and 170 plus are missing. That's a travesty. But when you go to assess the problem, you don't want to do your homework, critique the issue, and find out that, hey, this could have been avoided if we didn't play politics with race. You mean to tell me that several people would be alive today, over 100 plus people would be alive today, if Joel Baker didn't play race baiting and race hustling games with hiring practices? And that them hiring this guy, Joel Baker, was pretty much the critical reason why this became the travesty that it did. And so now some mother and father and sister and brother and aunt and uncle has to lay their loved one to rest just because of race and ethnicity, because we want to play the DEI game. Listen, man, DEI can be fatal. Fatal. When the focus is only on pigmentation, and in the same manner that Ketanji Brown Jackson was selected, her sex. Joe Biden said he wanted to bring on a Supreme Court justice that was black and female. That's DEI. Now, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she's educated. She's not. I mean, let me be clear here. Just because you are educated, I've met a lot of educated people. They had the alphabet behind their name, but they are as dumb as a doorknob. I mean, they're not smart. They're not intellectual. They can't think their way out of their own home. I mean, listen. So just because you have a lot of degrees doesn't mean that you're very wise and prudent and that you have clear understanding on how to do simple and basic things. But Joe Biden intentionally put an asterisk beside Ketanji Brown Jackson because she was selected because she was a Black female. We've all heard her musings from the bench. She should have never been selected in the first place. And see, prioritizing identity over competence in emergency roles endangers everyone. Roles like fire chief, paramedic, police, air traffic control, or military command require decisive, skilled leadership under pressure. If you have a person that doesn't operate well under pressure, do not hire them. You know, I used to lead a 40-week prayer walk at one of the busiest abortion clinics in the Southeast. And one of the things that we told people who came on board to volunteer is that if you can't handle someone spitting in your face, someone taking an umbrella and poking you in the chest, if you can't tolerate someone calling you a racial slur or anything like that, don't get in this work, because the left can be very nasty. I've seen it done. I've seen people have their chest poked by an umbrella. One wicked woman did this to a lady. I've seen people be called racial slurs, spat upon. Bishop Wooden one day was out at the abortion clinic, and some liberal escort started dancing on him and shaking her butt on him. Now, if you can't handle the heat, if you don't have the emotional intelligence and the ability to just understand, to remain poised at the face of evil and darkness and stand your ground and still be eloquent and still be able to process everything that you need to do. If you can't do that, you don't need to go into the pro-life space and be down at an abortion clinic trying to save babies, because it's not going to go well. The same thing is true with many of these roles. Fire chief and paramedic and police officer, if you can't handle yourself under pressure, if you blow your top too soon and too fast, don't get into that line of work. See, the church and the public must speak out. We must demand competence, not quotas. Why? Because this is going to save lives. The church should champion truth, justice, and responsibility, not political trends. It must be bold enough to say merit matters, lives are at stake. Let's say that together. Merit matters, lives are at stake. Does that mean that only white people can pass the muster of, being in the category of merit? No, that's not what we're saying. But we are saying that if you don't understand and comprehend things like reimbursement, if you don't understand the simple terms and practices of your field, then yeah, you're going to make some bad decisions and lives will be lost. That's what we're saying. See, Christians are called to be good stewards of truth and leadership, not silent observers to policy failures that endanger innocent people. This tragedy should spark a national reevaluation of DEI's role in public institutions. The Texas flood response exposes a systemic vulnerability. DEI-driven policies have trickled into sectors where failure leads to death. Failure leads to death. Incompetence leads to death. Not understanding your job, not being proficient at your job. These things can lead to death. We must now ask, are we hiring based on capability or just checking boxes? Are our emergency leaders trained to protect and respond, or are they trained to look diverse? How many other departments, hospitals, schools, law enforcement, and in between are similarly compromised? This is not a call to hate or exclude. If you feel that way after watching this episode, you missed the point. It's a call to protect lives, uphold excellence, and return to truth-based leadership. Let me know what you think below in the comment section. Am I right or am I wrong? Am I weak or am I strong? And remember, when you put merit and competence and skills first, these are things that don't have pigmentation or color. They're things that are necessary, and they could lead to the saving of one's life. God bless you, my friends, and God bless America.